All right, welcome to episode 312 of Backpacking America. I'm here today with New York State Senator Dean Murray, and we're going to be talking about the unfortunate assassination of Charlie Kirk, who was a very prominent conservative political commentator. He had a great podcast and a really great organization. And particularly what's concerning about this and why it affects me so much and like at an emotional level is this is just like a regular guy with a podcast, and he happened to just really pop off and make a lot of money just by sheer determination and a little bit of luck and a little bit of faith. And he was a businessman at the end of the day, and that concerns me because it's like, who's next? And it makes me almost afraid to even do this podcast because there's crazies all over the world, and I know a few people that disgustingly decided to celebrate Charlie Kirk's death, and I know these people in person. So, Dean, thank you for coming on, and I don't know how this is affecting you. I mean,
yeah, listen, Charlie Kirk, you know, as you said, he was a businessman, but he was also a guy with deep faith that was not afraid to talk about it. I think of him as being very brave, especially in today's society, the way that we have so much vitriol out there. You're either on one team or the other team. I look at it this way. All of these radical people that are out there committing acts of violence, they are not on the Republican team. They are not on the Democrat team. They're on Satan's team. They really are. That's the only team they're on. They don't represent anyone I know. The people that I know, most of whom, they'll talk it out. And that's what Charlie Kirk was all about. What he did was he struck a chord with the younger generation. And by going to the college campuses where traditionally it had been very liberal left, he was not afraid to go into the lion's den with his views, with his faith, and have the conversation, have the dialogue to say, let's talk about it. I feel this way, you feel that way. Let's discuss it.
And he got killed over that.
Exactly.
And he got killed. And that's so concerning because how many times have we had conversations with people where you just disagree, you agree to disagree, or you get into a little heated debate.
Right.
Now, are we going to get shot over that? And these are people that now I've known a lot of people that said, I don't know anyone personally that celebrated his death. I physically have touched some of these people. And when I had the conversations with them, they run away, they get angry. And it's like, how can you, this is someone that got shut. Now, I found out about this. I deleted social media from my phone a long time ago, and I only go on the computer.
Okay.
So I got sent the video and without context, and I was like, what? There's no way this just happened. So then I go on the internet, and I couldn't believe like how many people were remixing the footage to just say something messed up or like, saying, oh, well, he got what he got. Look at all these terrible things he said. Everyone said terrible things. I don't care who you are.
Right.
Everyone said stupid stuff at one point or another, whether you were 16, 26, 86. I don't care. That doesn't mean you should get shot.
Right.
And even if he and most of the stuff he said was pretty good.
Yes.
He had his moments, sure, but like, that doesn't mean he should die.
Right.
It's not like he did some heinous crime. So what does this mean for us as a nation? I mean, like moving forward, like how do we move forward from this?
Listen, we really have to treat this as an introspective moment and take a step back and exactly ask that question. Where are we? Where do we go from here? When you can't have civilized conversations without the fear of danger, without the fear of somebody coming after you. Listen, I've been in office. I've 7 years in the Assembly, 3 now in the Senate. I've had death threats. When I was in the Assembly, one was extremely graphic to the point where I had police by my side for about a week. We had a panic button installed in my office and at my home where my wife was at the time. And I had a personal one on my keychain.
Get out of here.
Because it was that serious. And we get comments, you see social media, some of the comments we get on there and all. Here's what I say. And I have people that question me, should you delete these comments? Should you get rid of them? There's no place for that. Again, I kind of look at it differently. I take it from the Charlie Kirk perspective. What I say is, regardless of what they're saying, it's their right to say it. But when someone is showing you who they are, don't interrupt.
Yeah, exactly.
Let the world see exactly
how bad they are.
Who you are. And that gives me a lot of knowledge there to stay away from you, because I don't know who could celebrate something this horrific.
It's also a lot of credible evidence in the future if they try to do anything crazy.
Sure.
And also it adds to that free debate where it's like, listen, you want to say that heinous stuff? You have every right to say that heinous stuff. You're not directly threatening anyone. You're not threatening to kill someone, terroristic threat, whatever. Keep it up. And I agree, let people see how it is. I mean, as a nation moving forward, I mean, it's hard because now it's like, I feel like there's a suspicion now where it's like, now that I've seen you say that, now I'm a little vigilant of like that individual that said that.
Sure.
I'm very, I don't want to come across as paranoid. I hope I don't, but it's just like,
no,
you don't know anymore. Now it's like political violence. And then there was in Idaho, I don't know if you saw this, there was a candlelit vigil for Charlie Kirk, and one lone protester came by and said, "Fuck Charlie Kirk." And he got pounced on by 20 people and they beat the crap out of him.
They shouldn't have done that either.
It's escalating so much. It's like, you don't know, like, I don't wear any political shirts anymore. I don't wear a hat.
But back up for a second. He got what he was there for.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a way of condoning what they did to him, but let's be clear. He knew exactly what was going to happen, and he wanted it to. Yeah. That's why he did it.
He wanted a clip of a moment.
That's a provocateur, and that's all that is. But don't give it to him. Yeah. Don't stoop to that level. Listen, you say what you will about the Obamas, but there is one thing Michelle Obama would say that I 100% agree with, and that is be better. Yeah. Be better. Be better. Don't stoop to that level. I see a lot of comments on the internet, and I've talked to a lot of people in person, and they've said, the Democrats are going to get what they're. I'm like, whoa, like you got to don't do that. Like you're advocating, you're throwing fire into the flame, and that's not what Charlie Kirk was about. Right. He was about peaceable discussion and keeping the country together and talking about God. I mean, that was like what he was about. So it almost comes down to like, and we were having discussions off camera too about, could this be like another 1960s moment? And, there were many people of many different persuasions during that period of time that were killed. And Martin Luther King was one of them. Yes. And he said, peace among men on earth. And then what happened? Riots, firebombing of recruiting stations, shootings. We got to be better and learn from the past. Yeah. And this is the MLK moment. This is the MLK moment. It is. Yeah. And, sometimes I read a lot of history and it's like, well, I would do this if this happened. And then you live the moment. Right. And it's like, oh shit. Like, am I doing what I said I was going to, believed I was going to do at the time? So you never know till you're in that position. Yeah, because you never know. Sure. You have to. It's easy to look at history and take a position when you're far removed, right? But then when you're in it, when you go from armchair historian to living manuscript, it's like, oh my god, what do we do? 100% different, exactly. And should people even feel afraid to air their opinions? Like, should they feel afraid? Like, do they have reason to? Do they have reason? Yes. Do I hope that they don't stop? Yes. I don't stop. Don't let this stop you. If you do, they won. And by they, I mean the evildoers. And as I said before, let me be perfectly clear. This person was evil. This was an evil act by a very angry, evil person that probably would not stop had he not been caught. I fear more what would have happened in the future if the police didn't catch him. Would he be emboldened by this? Who else? Who would be next? You think about the Minnesota shootings. That nut had not only killed a state representative, the former House Speaker in Minnesota, Melissa Ortman, but also shot a senator, John Hoffman, I believe, and his wife. That same that day or the day after. With the mask? Yeah. So he had a list they found in his car of 72 more Democrat, either political activists or elected officials that he was planning on going after. Oh my God. That's crazy. That's insane. That is, and that's what scares me. I didn't know he had a whole list. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's crazy. Did they take him a lot? He got killed, right? I don't remember. I don't remember either. I don't remember, actually.
And this is the thing too. Like I've seen a lot of people on the internet say, "Oh, well, the Republicans didn't care about the men." That's crap.
It is.
There were so many Republicans that came out in support in solidarity with that woman and her family.
Yes.
Just because, and the thing is, there's so much stuff that happens every day because everyone's so connected that people like. Of course, you're not going to talk about it every day because now this just got blown up. That just happened. This one disappeared. And it's unfortunate because we also can't appreciate the gravity of the moment where it's like we can't respond effectively because we have to respond instantly.
But Anthony, also the problem here is this. We live in the guilt by association age right now. We live in the 6 degrees of separation. We live in, if you say that, it means that. No, it doesn't. It means what I said. Mm-hmm. So when I put out a statement about Charlie Kirk, I did hear some that said, well, where were you when the Minnesota people? Well, I had put out a statement when they got shot about how sorry I was and how political violence, there's no place for political violence. Here's the difference. I knew Charlie Kirk, not personally, but I knew of Charlie Kirk. I followed Charlie Kirk and all. I didn't know Melissa Hortman. She was a lawmaker from Minnesota. Why would I know her? So no, I'm not going to put out the same statement that I'm going to put out for Charlie Kirk because I wasn't aware of her like I was of Charlie Kirk.
And even with the people supporting her.
Right, but there were also people that said, well, you care about him, but what about the school shootings? It's apples and oranges. What does one have to do with the other?
They're both terrible incidences with different responses required.
Exactly. And why would I say, well, if I'm not going to say it for this, I'm not going to say it. Well, I mean, where does that end? There was a hit and run accident where somebody died the other day. Are we not supposed to say something about something else because we didn't say something about, like it snowballs into ridiculousness. Everybody right now, we are in such a society of victimhood. We have professional victims everywhere you look. They are so worried about how this can hurt them, how what you said hurt my feelings or this, that, the other. Man, here's my message. Grow up. Mm-hmm. Life's tough. Grow up. Rub some dirt on it. Move on. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously.
Exactly.
It's getting to the point of ridiculous.
It is. And it's going to tear the country apart because the country wasn't designed to be like Europe. That's a very European outlook.
Right.
And I get very... I mean, I'm actually a little speechless because that was so on point. It was really on point. Of course, things are terrible. And how many times have Republicans spoken out against mass shootings? How many times have Republicans spoken out against political violence? Just because we have different avenues of approach doesn't mean we don't care. It just means we have different avenues of approach. Correct. I see people saying disgusting things like, well, now maybe Republicans will wake up to the fact we need more gun control. University of Utah is a gun-free zone. There were police officers everywhere, and that still failed.
Right.
So obviously, and this is the most heavily armed country since 1776. And now we are having more mass shootings than ever. And it's because the culture's changed. There's something with social media. I work with it every day. I've been off of it for a long time. And I will tell you the mental clarity and the difference in emotional regularity, not using it is astounding.
Yeah.
So, and then there's also a high percentage of people on psychiatric drugs.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Not everyone should be on them.
Oh, listen, we are a pharmaceutical society, too, which I think plays into the victimhood society because, again, we are really messing with the mental health. And you talk about different approaches. Every time you scream, gun control, gun control, gun control. Here's a little fun fact for all my Democrat friends who want more gun laws. Criminals don't obey the laws. So you can put all the gun laws you want in place. The only ones that will obey are the law-abiding citizens, the ones that need the guns to protect themselves against the criminals. The criminals are not going to abide by the gun laws. I also say this. The gun that was used to shoot Charlie Kirk was not even a gun that the Democrats want banned. Wasn't on their list.
No.
They were perfectly fine with this gun. It was a bolt-action, single-shot rifle.
308. Yeah, it's a deer cartridge.
Right.
It's a deer cartridge.
At what point, again, the horrible incident in Charlottesville, Virginia. Oh, was it Charlotte or Charlottesville? I think it was Charlotte.
Was that where the mass shooting was?
No, that was where the stabbing was of the poor young Ukrainian woman.
I thought that was in Chicago.
No.
Oh, Charlotte, you're right. Yeah, Charlotte. It was. See, this is how bad this is.
Right. Oh, was it that one or that one? But But what was used there wasn't a gun. It was a knife.
It was a knife.
My point is, what do all of them have in common? Mental health.
Yeah.
And so...
And online radicalization, too.
Well, of course. And desensitization. I think a lot of these video games and all these other things where it's shoot 'em up, this, that, the other, but then you just hit the reset button, start again. There is no reset button in real life. You shoot them, they die. It's over. Done.
I think we need to advocate for firearms education in schools because I grew up, I've been shooting since I was 6. I respect guns. I understand their lethality, their danger, and also their utility. But people that I talk to, when they find out that I shoot, they're like, oh, you own guns? Oh my God, that's so cool. Like, calm down.
Yeah.
Like, calm down. It's a tool. It's like if I owned I look at it the same way as if I owned a saw or I owned a hammer. It's just a utilitarian. Like, I go hunting.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I use it to harvest game and eat. So I think if we demystify firearms, we stop making a cult around them.
Here's the problem. The left has gone so far to the left. They actually introduced legislation in Albany this past year to not allow the NRA, former military, from being gun trainer, from them being what's the word I'm looking for? I guess trainers would
instructors
be
for the CCW, right? For the concealed carry?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
to
insane.
not allow them to be instructors, to not allow them to train in gun safety. That's what the NRA is. That's first and foremost what the NRA was an educational group that would teach firearm safety.
And why wouldn't you want former military to teach that too? I mean,
because
that's
the goal
their job.
is to get rid of guns, period. They live in this fantasy world where they'll ride their little unicorn over the rainbow, and when they land, there will be no guns in the world. Newsflash. 3D printers are making guns now. There are ghost guns. You're not going well out of the barn now, okay?
Yeah.
That's not happening.
There's also 400 million guns in this country.
Exactly.
What are you going to do? You're going to confiscate them?
Right.
Do you know how... like, that's
First
a
of all, it
different
would
conversation.
never happen. Exactly.
That's a different conversation.
Exactly.
But, you know, can we also call for, instead of gun control, can we call for additional funding towards mental health treatment? Because you can't, like, there's so many insurances that don't cover basic treatments.
Correct.
And it's like, why are we not pushing this instead of gun control?
Sure.
Because people are going to, fine, take away the guns. They're going to stab people. They're going to bomb people. They're going to crash their car through, you know, a building. It doesn't matter. People that want to be homicidal, they're going to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Even if it's with their bare hands.
Okay, here's a not so fun fact. Do you know where the largest, in U.S. history, the largest school massacre, do you know when and where that occurred and how it occurred?
Wasn't that in the 30s with the guy with the truck bomb?
Very close. 1929 in Bath, Michigan. And it was a gentleman who had run for the school board and lost and was very upset about it. So over the years, in this particular school district, they had 2 buildings. It was either an east-west or north-south buildings, wings. He planted dynamite under them. He then shot his wife, lit their barn on fire so that the emergency crews would go there. He went to the school and detonated the bombs. Luckily, the one in one of the buildings malfunctioned and didn't blow up. But by far, if you look it up, I don't know the numbers, but the numbers are astronomical, most being children. It was by far the worst massacre in our nation's history at a school, and yet had nothing to do with guns.
Yeah.
As you said, if someone wants to do damage, they're going to find a way to do damage. They quote people that don't like guns will go, quote other countries and, how great they are. There aren't any shootings in London and all. You know how many stabbings there are?
Yeah. It's insane.
You're not going to stop. But everything, when you look at all the incidents, what's the one thing they have in common? Mental health issues. So you're right. You want to fight it? Get the proper funding, get the right ideas for mental health. Let's address that problem. And I do agree with restricting who can have a firearm and who cannot. I absolutely agree with that. To the extent that we're not going too far, it is our God-given right.
What would be like the litmus then for like who should have them, who shouldn't?
If you're in mental health treatment right now, if you're sick, and here's the danger of that, by the way. Some have put that forward that say, if you're in mental health treatment, you can't have a gun. Well, the problem there is, if you have someone, they're not going to want to come forward to get the treatment. So you can't necessarily say we're taking them away. With that said, how about we compromise? How about we say, listen, what we're going to do is limit your access to them while you're getting treatment.
But what treatment is it? Is it just seeing a counselor?
I don't know. And that's what we need to look into and find out. That's what we need to investigate more. As much as the left loves to say whenever there's a tragedy and we say our thoughts and prayers are with them, we really are giving our condolences. What else do you want us to say?
Yeah.
We do mean it. But they say, oh, your thoughts and prayers aren't doing anything. You need to do. And then I want them to finish that sentence. Do what?
And then also,
what's your solution?
One, what are you doing? And two, where were you when the Patriot Act happened? So you complain about the Patriot Act. You complain about Big Brother and all the Orwellian stuff from the post 9/11 era. You complain about DHS. You complain about all these restrictions that are anti-terrorism. But then you're also going to complain that there's none of that response to mass shootings.
Right.
So what's wrong with you?
It's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Damned if you don't. I mean, for me personally, with the firearms thing, I really don't think, if we are going to do the mental health thing, I think it's if you're on like specific like drugs, like heavy drugs that could cause homicidal or suicidal tendencies, then yeah, you probably shouldn't be allowed to purchase any additional firearms. But even then, like, I'm not a strong believer in that. I really don't believe in any gun control. And I'm sure that, I know in New York that
doesn't go over well.
It doesn't go over well. I'm what you would call not an absolutist, I guess a constitutionalist is the term.
Yeah.
But, I think the main thing that we could all unite on is, because I don't want to turn this into a gun debate show.
Right.
I think that the main thing is that if we could just fund health treatment and then make it so that people that do own firearms aren't afraid to get the help.
Right.
Where there's like a fine line. Because I know a lot of friends of mine that are like, I would like to see a therapist, or I see this online too, like, I'd like to see a therapist, but I don't want to lose my guns.
Yep.
And fair, but it's also, there's extreme risk protection orders in place for a reason. So it's like, if you're going to go in there and say, yeah, I have homicidal dreams, yeah, obviously you're going to lose your stuff. But if you're just like, hey man, like, my job kind of sucks and I would just like some guidance, I don't think you're going to,
That's the risk we run. It's a complicated issue. There is no easy answer. And when we were trying to come up with what we call the red flag laws, there was one bill that I did not support at all because it was, in my opinion, it was a horrible bill. It was poorly written and it was done for political reasons to get certain people to vote no on it so they could go say he's against gun control. Then we sat down, talked, and really came up with one that I thought was fair because it involved due process.
Okay.
You cannot have anything like that without due process. We must be afforded that. When we came up with that, I thought it was a reasonable enough compromise that it made sense. So I voted yes. There needs to be more ability to do that. There needs to be the ability to compromise. The problem is too much of it is politicized and used as a political weapon. Like I explained with the first bill that was introduced, they had no intent of passing the bill. They knew it wouldn't pass. What they wanted was to get one side on the record voting against a bill they called a gun control bill. So in the next election, they could say, well, Dean Murray voted against gun control. He doesn't care if school shootings happen and this, that, the other. And then they'll fail to mention that Dean Murray actually did vote for the real red flag law that did help to promote and reduce it and go after the problem.
So what is the bill exactly? Like, what are the conditions for it? And then what is the
well, I'll give you
process.
I'll give you the process with and forgive me, this was a couple of years ago it passed, and I don't have it in front of me.
I'm not here to trip you.
I don't want to say things not true. So I'll give you the 30,000 feet view. The bad bill basically said if anybody complained, they said, I think Anthony's crazy. I think he's just off his rocker. He's been saying crazy things and he's mean. I don't like him. You should take his guns. And they can go take your guns.
Wow. Okay.
And that's it. And then you'll eventually go before a judge who would then determine, well, is he really or is he isn't, or is he not? And then it would take months and months and months, even if they deemed you weren't a danger, it would take months and months, if not years, for you to finally get your guns back.
And that's if you get them back.
Exactly. That was ridiculous. There was no way. The one that I thought was reasonable was, first off, too many times what happens is somebody in a nasty divorce, the one will say about the other one, oh, they're doing this, or child abuse, or mental health abuse, or something like this. And they'll make these unfounded claims because they know it'll hurt them. So they use it as a weapon. So the second bill kind of took that into effect and took that in mind and said, wait, there's got to be some realistic aspects to it. So if you make a complaint, you got to go before the judge. I believe it was within 24 or 48 hours to be evaluated to find out, does this even have merit? If it doesn't, dismissed. Go about your way.
And they don't even take your guns when
not at first.
Process. Okay.
Not at first. First step is go before and get evaluated and find out, does this have any merit whatsoever? If they deem that it does, they will take them, and then you go to a more detailed hearing. And that's when the doctors, everybody gets involved, and there's evaluations and all this. But if they deem that you are not a danger and it was not warranted, I believe it was 72 hours or something to that aspect of getting your guns back. Okay. So it was very quick. You had your due process. It was done in a timely fashion. I could live with that. That's a compromise. Is it what I want? No, but it's much better than the other.
Speedy and fair trial with due process, and you're given benefit of the doubt first, so your innocence is preserved
until proven guilty. Right.
And I'm so sorry that this veered off into the
it very easily does.
It does, and it's just I kind of wanted to circle back to the Charlie Kirk thing, because that really did pique my interest, and it is topical. But why do you think there's so many people that celebrate his death, especially after seeing that horrific footage? I mean, when I saw it, I got physically sick.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I don't understand why someone would celebrate that.
Because we've become desensitized. I think the internet can be a great thing. Our phones, our computers, they can be a great tool. They can, allow you to catch up with old friends and keep up with others that maybe live far away or something. It can be wonderful. It can also be very dangerous, because you go on to TikTok or some of these others, or X or these others, and what you will get is not the full story. I can't tell you how many snippets of Charlie Kirk comments or segments I've seen that were taken so out of context. If you would actually watch the full, you would understand. But we don't. We live in an instant gratification society. We want it fast, we want it now. We don't care if it's accurate. Just give it to me. And then you've got the memes. Everybody wants to get the most likes. Everyone wants to feel popular and funny and this, that, the other. We have just become so desensitized. And a lot of it has to do, I think, with the internet and that. But I think it's almost like the perfect storm. It's the horrible discourse we have, where we don't have people like Charlie Kirk that will have conversations. Instead, it immediately turns and devolves into a fight, an argument, sometimes physical, sometimes violent. We need more people like Charlie Kirk, more people to come forward and say, let's just have a conversation. So when I get into, and I've been doing this for a while, I'm obviously on the right. I have friends on the left in Albany. I'll give you a quick story. There was a bill that would allow police officers to carry EpiPens in their cars.
Yes.
To save lives. Unfortunately, in 2019, Geo's law passed on the state level. That was the bill to allow this to happen. But in New York City, it was already happening, so New York City wanted to be excluded from the bill. So the original bill, and we do this a lot.
Okay.
In the bill, they used kind of antiquated language, and they used it based on population. And they put language in based on population to exclude New York City. What they didn't realize was the population growth on Long Island, in Nassau, Suffolk, and even in Westchester has skyrocketed. Oh. So the language they use inadvertently excluded Nassau, Suffolk, and I believe Westchester.
Oh my God.
So when Dominic Thorne, our legislator here, came up with the idea and said, yes, we're going to pass this on the county level and get these EpiPens into the cop cars to save lives, he was told, you can't. There is a law on the state books that will not allow Suffolk County to do that. So I had to go back He contacted me. I reached out to the original sponsor of Geo's Law, who happens to be Senator Salazar, a member of the Democrat Socialists of America.
Oh, gee.
So she's as far left as you get. I'm pretty far right, being the Tea Party guy.
Oh, that's what's up. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
So what happened was we worked together. I said, let's do it together. So we were both co-prime sponsors of the bill to amend and fix the law to allow them to do this in Suffolk County. We did it. We wrote it up. We put it through. We got it signed by the governor. It is now the law. Both sides working together for the good of the people. That's how it's supposed to work. By the way, footnote to the story. They finally put the EpiPens into the cop cars last week.
Save someone's life, right?
Literally 2 days later. There was a gentleman got stung by a bee, went into anaphylactic shock. Had the police not had them, all the medics and everyone say he would have died.
Holy crap.
They injected the first shot. When the paramedics got there, they had to give him a second one. But had they not given him the first one and had waited for the paramedics, he wouldn't have made it.
No kidding.
He was starting to swell up. The throat was closing. He was going to suffocate and die. They saved his life like that. All because we worked together. That's the way it's supposed to work. Doesn't always.
And it's really a shame that it doesn't, and people don't see that.
Right.
And it's like Lincoln said best, a house divided cannot stand.
Exactly.
Mean, it's just, now, what really does freak me out is that there's also people, it's really with my generation especially, where we're very divided and very so I'm writing a book currently about media freedom and democracy, and I'm actually on the second draft right now. So it's coming out soon.
Very good.
Thank you. But I noticed that in my generation, we are actually the most polarized politically based on gender. So men are statistically at a higher level of being conservative than women are. Women are more liberal than it has been since 1990. So every decade there would be a shift, but really around like 2010 is when it was like 30 points men Republican, 30 points women liberal. So that's why it's like all my friends, their girlfriends are very liberal and there's fights over it. And whereas that shouldn't even be like a part of a relationship until like way down the line. But now it's like the primary filtering. So it's a politicized social regimen.
Yeah.
So it's very strange.
I would like to see the statistics on age as well.
Oh, yeah.
There's an old saying that you start off when you're young as a liberal Democrat, but as you get older and more responsibilities, a family, a job, paying your taxes, doing this, you become Republican and then conservative. I'd like to see the age breakout too in that, because a lot of the females, once they become moms,
it shifts.
There's a shift because they want that. Traditionally, Republicans are more law enforcement and you know, safety and things like this.
I have an anecdotal piece of evidence to support that. Sure. I have a friend of mine that I went to high school with, and she was very liberal, very, you know, rah-rah, Republicans suck, whatever. Then she had 2 kids, and she moved to Portland, and she's like, yeah, you know what? I've changed my opinions a lot, Anthony. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Like, it's crazy what that'll do to someone,
right?
You know?
And I'm not saying that to be, it's not meant to be derogatory.
No,
what I'm saying is that, you know, your positions will evolve. And listen, it's about learning about the other side. I think going back to your original question of why, it's because we don't take the time to actually look into what they're saying. For example, Charlie Kirk said some things I didn't agree with, some particular comments.
Yeah.
But when you look at the overall picture of what he stood for, what he did, I admire him. I think the guy was amazing and fantastic for what he was doing. That doesn't mean I agreed with every single thing he said. I don't think there's a human being on earth that I've agreed with 100% of the time. Hell, I don't agree with myself 100% of the time.
I was just about to say that about myself.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So my point is that, you know, you've got to look at the bigger picture. You've got to look at the intent matters. It really does. What was he actually trying to say? You might not have liked the statistics he threw out. Like when he would talk about the crime in black culture. He wasn't trying to put down the black community. But you cannot ignore the fact that the highest rate of fatherlessness or homes without a father is in the black community. And does that equate to problems down the road? And That's what he was saying.
That's all he was saying.
And what he was saying was, we need to get back to pushing more for, regardless of the color of your skin, a nuclear family where you have a mom and a dad and kids and you do things together and you're a family. When you do that, it should, all the statistics show that when you do that, it's just a better life. It really is.
And you build a community that way.
Right.
You can't have a broken family because that means a broken community.
And that's not to say broken families are bad. That's not to say single moms aren't doing a great job or anything. They are. What we're saying is, and this goes back to what I said also about this 6 degrees of separation in today's society. Someone will take the statement I just made and said, he doesn't think single moms are worthy. Not what I said at all.
No.
I admire them. I was raised by a single mom who was amazing.
Nice.
So that's not what I said. What I'm saying, though, is a choice between a broken home and the nuclear family with the mother, the father, and the kids. I'm choosing the nuclear family. I'm choosing the full family
100%.
with both parents because I think it's better for the children.
And you want to know something crazy? I've never listened to Charlie Kirk. I've never listened to a single piece of his thing.
You should.
I knew who he was, but I knew who he was, and I should.
Yeah.
And seeing him get killed for that, because I knew enough where it's like, okay, he's a podcaster. I didn't know he helped Trump immensely. I didn't know he was a big part. Yeah. I had no idea. But he was just like, I never thought about Charlie Kirk unless I saw something about Charlie Kirk pop up on my feed. Right. So to me, it was just like, he's a regular dude. And he just happened to get, within 6 degrees of separation. No pun intended. And he got shot for it. Right. So I guess my message, as we close this out is, like, just talk to your friends and your family and your neighbors like they're people at the end of the day, and don't let this eat you up. And get off the phone. Touch some grass. Touch some grass. Yeah. Put the drugs down. Yeah. Like, stop smoking pot. You're paranoid. Not everyone's a fascist.
Right.
Not everyone's a communist. Sometimes it's just your friend Bill has some weird opinions.
Listen. 99.9% of the time when they're sitting there screaming and yelling about how terrible Charlie Kirk was and all this, explain to me how Charlie Kirk's opinion affected you. Tell me how it hurt your life or changed your life in any way. What difference did it make? It was his opinion, and there were people that enjoyed listening to it and some on the other side that liked to have the back and forth and spar and have the conversation. How is that bad? How is that affecting you? Why do you feel the need to interject and jump in and somehow, again, turn to violence? Why? What was the point? And that's what baffles me.
It's not even that. It's like they think that the speech of it is so dangerous and that it's going to lead to a fascist state if we allow this platform to continue. And it's like, you're an idiot because you clearly have never read any literature that mattered in life where it said, hey, if you silence someone, their words are going to get so much more powerful.
Yeah.
You know? So just let people talk. Why don't you start a podcast and talk about how you feel about things? I mean, does that mean that now it feels like everyone that says something is got to talk? What's going to happen with Joe Rogan? What's going to happen to Stephen Colbert? What's going to happen to Howie Mandel? I hope nothing either. But it's like now it's like the threshold for who violence can be done upon as a political target has just increased.
Well, you just said, why don't you start a podcast, express your opinion? Who would want to do that now?
I know. I felt nervous doing this, to be honest with you. I really did. But it's just like, who would? Because now it's dangerous.
But we need to.
Yeah.
We need to have the conversation.
It's part of the fight for democracy.
And you need to be able to invite the back and forth. Yeah. So hopefully we can get back on track. Hopefully this will be an introspective moment where we take a step back and say, we've gone too far. Let's get back on track. Your lips to God's ear, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure. And everyone, thank you so much for listening to Backpack America. This has been episode 312. Believe it or not, 6 years of doing this. Until next time.